I'll show you my Carolina. Is it Carolina jasmine or Carolina jasmine? Jasmine. I think it's Carolina jasmine. It's a native plant too, like I think South Carolina and places like that. But yeah, I've had it. This will be maybe a second year, I think. But it's a vine. Miss Brenda had it in one of her videos. She had it growing up something, but they can get out of control. But you can just kind of cut them back to kind of keep them, where you want them at. But it was pretty good size when I bought it. But last year it done a lot of growing. But this is the first time it's bloomed since I've planted it. But I smelled the little flowers. They smell really sweet. So they usually bloom like at the tail end of winter and the early spring. So that's what we're at. But I took this this out in the woods, this dead cedar tree, and I took my little baby chainsaw and I cut it down. Let me get around here. Because there was just like an A-frame, little bit, one bias that was just, we had it put over here, but it was kind of wobbly, and so I took that down, and I saw this, and so I dug a hole. Luckily it's really soft right here. I didn't hit no rocks, amazingly. I dug down about a foot deep, and then stuck it down in the ground really far, and then packed all the dirt around it. And this might look kind of wonky, but I know the birds really like it, like little bird perches and stuff. But I think once the vine, grows up it'll look pretty good. But if that doesn't work out, just take it up out of the ground, no big deal. But so that's kind of what I did. But you can kind of where I stuck it in the ground, and I think there's actually two, the one main one, and then there's a smaller one that I've got zip tied to pull it together, because I think that there's two together, because I know that the little birds, just like the little spot over here with the bird feeder, and birds really like little perches, and they just, so it's just, might not be nothing manicured or fancified looking, but looks like just like a dead tree standing there. But I mean, it is a dead tree, but a dead cedar tree, which so I know it won't. It'll last a lot longer than had a different kind of tree, because cedar. But so last year most of the growth was just all down at the bottom, but it done a lot of vine, and you can see a lot of new growth starting to sprout out on it. So it's probably going to do a lot of growing this year, and it needs full sun. So that's what it's going to get right here. And I did this maybe about a month ago. I put this dead cedar tree, and I just kind of wrapped it as best I could, because it was curled around the one bias, the A-frame looking thing, one bias that was over here. You can see how it curled and wrapped around it. So it's going to take some training to kind of get it, but it'll grow wherever it wants to, really. But it's going to kind of twine all the way up into here, which I think is going to be kind of neat looking. It'll probably twine and just kind of hang off of it. But I just took a whiff of some of these flowers, and boy, you're talking about smelling really good. Real sweet smelling. It's got Carolina jasmine. Still got a few buds on there, and then my butterfly bushes that I've had forever. Some have died because they just got old, and I never really trimmed them the way that I guess they're supposed to be trimmed. So now this, the parts of them are dead, so they're just like bird perches. So I have to cut them. So like this one here, they love stuff like that. So this one's dead. It's got some new growth at the bottom, but I mean, just gonna keep this one cleaned off because I don't want it to be all, because there was when they was all growing in here, they'd get so tall I couldn't reach the top, so they got really too bushy, and I could never keep because the butterfly bushes, if you want to keep them blooming, you got to keep the blooms cut off. But these kinds that I had are the ones that don't, what they call non-sterile or whatever. These will seed, and you can get little. That's how I've gotten some. I think about 2 or 3 other butterfly bushes that they grew from seed. There's actually one down over there that's grown. I'm gonna let it stay for a little while, and then until it gets a little size, and then move it somewhere. Because you probably won't find that kind in the nurseries or like at Lowe's or anywheres anymore, because they've kind of gotten together in different states and whatnot and deemed them invasive. But I mean, in the 17 years that I've lived here and had them, it's a far cry to call it invasive. It's just silly nonsense, whatever. But this one right here I planted last year, and that's a sterile one. It won't seed, but so I've cut it, and it's got all kinds of new growth on it because it's still a young plant. And these two are some of my old ones that came about. So they've got some new bud, new growth coming on them, and they did really good last year. But I think butterfly bushes, you're really supposed to cut them down to at least a foot. But I always had a hard time doing that because I just, live and learn. But so I think these will be, a couple of them will be okay, but kind of get a little iffy on them. But like this one's part of a dead one. But see it just off so you can tell the roots. But this is nice because the butterflies always look out the bathroom window here, and butterflies and the hummingbirds would be all over them. But I think the hummingbird's supposed to be, definitely like this, but I don't know that it's going to bloom in the summertime. I think it's more of a early season bloomer, and then it just grows and vines the rest of the year. But so that's what I did. Got lilies starting to come up, coming up out of the ground, and my clematis is really starting to come up. That thing I've had for a really long time. Probably had it 15 years. So it'll grow every bit of that tall thing right there. And last year I bought this small clematis. I think the flowers they're some kind of pink color called pink, fantasy pink, something like that. So far so good. It didn't. I think it had one little bloom on it last year, but because it was down further and it didn't do good down there, so I put it in a pot, and that's where it stayed. And it actually started doing really good, so then I was able to transplant it. So transplant it back down here. I think it'll be a better spot for it. So, try and weave my way out of here. I got cleaned up over here. I got some stuff over here. It's mainly all the black-eyed Susans over here in this spot. So I think they're kind of fizzling out over here, but that's fine. I got that one big main huge. Still a lot of them coming up. You can see they're just starting to come up out of the ground. All that tiny stuff's just, that stuff there's just some kind of weed. But I've got over here and full of weeds already. And there's the irises that are, I think some of the ones bulbs that I ordered offline, and the ones that you gave me, those old irises. So they've been growing a lot. They started growing really good about a month ago, and they've really started growing here recently. So hoping they'll bloom. So it's a good spot. They'll get sun and an afternoon shade, and then but they'll have moisture, but they won't they got good drainage here, so that's what they need. So there's a little hydrangea, one of those regular kind of hydrangeas I stuck off over there, and it does okay as long as we get a lot of rain, because it gets a little dry in this spot, surprisingly. And some some of the hostas that you gave me coming up over here too. There's some, and then there's a kind of sprouting up down there if you can see. But I don't really want to do a whole lot of plants over here. I'm kind of trying to keep it fairly open. But of course, the black-eyed Susans, like I said, I kind of think they're fizzling out. Some spots, like maybe this spot, is kind of fizzling out for some reason. But I did one of my catnips. They seeded, and I dug one up and put it right here. Like, this is the actual catnip, the one that cats go crazy for. And it'll make a pretty good sized plant. So if it wants to seed kind of back here, I might be okay. And then kind of just have a big catnip area. Because I've never had it until last year, and the little birds and the honeybees just love that stuff. I'll get out of here. Ain't nothing really, well, the little goldfinches, they like the black-eyed Susans. They like to come pick the petals off, but they got enough of that over there in that one main bunch to do that. But so everything's at that kind of messy stage looking, but I've still got a lot of flower bed clean. But this one I've pretty much cleaned up for the most part, except for pulling weeds off and on. But my radio looking fence. But, oh well, it keeps the dogs out of here. It's its main purpose, is to keep the dogs out. So, but you can kind of see, pretty tall. So, crabapple did pretty good in the storm last night. I was like, no, because it was really windy. I mean, wind was gusting and rain was pouring and it was thundering and lightning, and I just knew all the blooms would be all beat up, but they're okay. I see a few little petals, but not much. Still some old crab apples from last year on there. Look like raisins. It's starting to open up really good. You can get it's like perfume. But yeah, it's done pretty good. Looked out the window and turned the lights on, and it was just whipping with the wind, but it kind of went with it, and it was fun. Had to get these weeds pulled up out of these rocks. I did this section over here, but yeah, you can see a few little pink petals here and there, but probably some of the bloom has been open for a few days. Some of the very early ones, but just absolutely loaded with blooms. The sun was out. I see the sun was out, the honeybees would be on it, but kind of cloudy. The wind's coming up out of the north, so it's got chilly. Oh, see my little plant blooming down here. I planted this. I forget what this is called, but it'll come back every year. But I put it in this little cedar. What am I talking about? This concrete planter. It actually has a ground cover. I need to trim it back, trim some of this old stuff off of it from the winter time, but I just wanted to see if it would. I should put it in the dirt. That's what I should do. But I just wanted to see if it would come back in the pot, but it did. It'd be neat if it would kind of cascade over the edges. So I may just let it alone and see what it does. It's got some new growth, a lot of new growth on it. Of course, all this stuff is just from the fall and winter time, but I'll just probably leave it be and let it do its thing. And here's all my, they won't bloom until the summertime, around about June, July, some of the crabapple. Trying to sprout up, but all these right here, it's called orchid crane fly. And it's a native plant, and they're native to North America, to the southeast. But you'll just find them throughout the woods. And what they do is these leaves will die back. So they put their leaves out in the I think through the fall and through winter. And so when all the trees have no leaves, that's how they get their sun. They get their UV rays, or their what they need from the sun in the winter through the leaves. And then the leaves will die back to the ground. And then about June, July, they'll bloom. They'll send up stalks about 6, 7, 8 inches tall of little tiny little flowers that I call it an orchid crane fly because the little flowers look like those big, what they look like. They look like big giant mosquitoes, but they're not. Those ain't really mosquitoes, but that's why because those are called crane flies. So it's actually, I don't know if it's actually a fly or not. I don't know, but that's what they're called. So that's what it's named after. But it puts on a stalk with all these tiny little flowers all along the stalk, and really neat, really pretty small little flowers that you would just pass over walking in the woods. You'd never see them, but so me, I discovered them and I transplanted. I did a lot of transplanting a couple years ago. Well, last year, and all their little bulbs, like a little bulb. It looks like the bulbs look like those. It looks like those little pearl onions. I think you find them in food, like green beans or something. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. That's kind of what the bulbs look like. So, and then have a big limb just fell off in the woods. Some roots off the bulbs, but so they're really easy. Just right at the surface of the dirt. Real easy to dig up. So I transplanted them, and they bloomed last year, so I had done it. I must have done it winter before last. I can't remember, but so they bloomed really pretty last year. Of course, I wasn't doing, the little YouTube video for you like I do to show you stuff, but this year, you'll see them. I got pictures of them. I don't know if I ever sent you pictures of them or not, but so I've got a whole little, and they'll spread a little bit. They'll be a little, they don't get all crazy or nothing. They just kind of, there, I got another little spot of them right there, but yeah, stuff's just beginning to, stuff's kind of covered up to keep the dogs off of it for right now. I need to get a little, they don't get in this spot too much, but I should put a small little fence around it just to keep them out, because I have little sprouts and green stuff coming out that I've transplanted that's native full plant. But yeah, it's just, I get mesmerized by stuff, and I just look at it 100 times and then feel like I still ain't looked at it enough or admired it enough. There's just going to be tons of crab apples, and this crab apple got some little size to them. They're kind of a reddish kind of color, pinkish color. And then the snowdrift crabapple I have out front, it puts out small crab apples, real small. And they're actually kind of an orangey color. Here, smell. Smells so good. Uh-oh, scared the birds off. But yeah, I'm just glad to see it didn't get beat up too much through the night. Because it was... Still got a lot of blooms to open up. But... Alright, that's enough of my yakking. So... I'll get off here again. So I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.